Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with another Total War Warhammer video. Today we're going to start off a new series where we're going to look at each faction for Total War Warhammer 3, those which we can speculate to be confirmed, and see how their armies would perform in game. Bear in mind that the influence for this series is not so much the lore, but rather through the tabletop game. I myself have been playing Warhammer Fantasy Tabletop for many years, and I have both seen these armies at play and also played as them myself. Today we'll kickstart the series with Khorne and his armies, as we for some reason have yet to talk about him. Khorne is the blood god, the chaos god of war, honor, courage, rage, strength, and hate. Khorne and his armies despise the petty trickery of magic, for there is no honor in magical combat. Khorne's armies, while demonic, mostly follow around the creed of honor in combat, and for that they're very up close and personal. Let's take the time now to look through the 8th edition army book for the Demons of Chaos, and explain how each of the Demons of Khorne are expected to work. First, of course, we'll start with the Bloodletters, the most common of all of Khorne's demons. Regiments beyond regiments uncounted are seen across the battlefield. Their weapon of choice is known as the Hellblade, which is often represented as usable as both a one-handed and two-handed weapon. Because of that, it is likely we might see two variants of Bloodletters introduced as frontline troopers. A variant with one-handed weapons, as that would be a bit quicker and more agile on the battlefield, and a variant with a two-handed Hellblade, slower but able to take down armored units without too much of a problem. Only one variant of the Bloodletter existed on the tabletop itself, though this could be possible to flesh out the roster a little more, especially as we know that unit champions are implemented as their own separate unit in Total War Warhammer, so it's possible that Bloodletters with great weapons would be known as Blood Reapers, just like the unit champion. I'm assuming, even though they are the most basic of Khorne's demons, they would have some mid-tier stats, keeping them relevant for as much time as possible in a campaign. Next we'll move on to the Bloodcrushers of Khorne, Khorne's heavy cavalry. Again we will see Bloodletters, and this will be a common theme throughout this army, but this time they are riding atop of Juggernauts of Khorne, vicious and bestial part demon part machine hybrids. Think of these in a very similar sense to that of the Imperial Demigryph Knights, but far more violent and much more resistant to damage in combat. Of course, the mounts themselves are pretty much living steel at this point. It is a heavy cavalry unit, and I don't believe that we'll see them that early into campaign. They should be extremely destructive, however, when we are able to recruit them, but this once again reinforces the need for a different type of Bloodletter, as some basic variants would help once we wait to recruit the heavier troops. It could be possible we might see a generic monster variant of the Juggernauts too, just some basic Juggernauts without any riders atop. Again to flesh out the army just a little bit more, as of course the demons themselves normally worked as a undivided faction, so we don't have a lot of variants for each specific god. Next, of course, we have the Fleshhounds of Khorne, the only skirmish unit within the Khorne roster. These are like any other dog unit in Total War Warhammer. You would use them to charge around and try to flank your enemy, or also use them as war machine hunters. It's easy enough to explain. Creative Assembly really love introducing dog units, so everyone should more or less be used to them by now. Now we have the Skull Cannons of Khorne, a chariot-based cannon. This would be the main war machine for the forces of Khorne. It's a chariot, so you could also use it to skirmish a little bit, but the main reason it's in the roster is because it's a fast, mobile artillery piece. You can move around and not have to worry too much about it getting sniped out. Think of this as a cannon, but with the mobility of that of a war wagon, but you know, actually being useful. It's going to be something which is going to allow you to attack cities head on. That also really depends on if the Bloodthirster is the only lord choice or not. I'm assuming Bloodthirsters will have the siege attacker trait due to their immense size. The last unit from the 8th edition army book is that of the Blood Throne. Now this is a multi-purpose chariot. You're more than able to have it in front combat or even use it to flank your enemies and so on. But you'll want to keep it protected from your enemies, as this also acts as a buffer towards your units. This was the case as a Bloodletter Herald would be able to be mounted upon the Blood Throne. However, I could see this being implemented in a different way. By all means, it should be a mount option for the heroes, and we'll have a video dedicated to the heroes in due course. But it should also act as its own unit, having a totem of endless bloodletting atop of it. This is so a Blood Throne unit could be implemented to further fluff up the roster for Khorne. Of course, we've seen on the trailer that there are some Skullcrushers too, mortal servants of Khorne, but until we know exactly what mortal servants and how they will be implemented, I'd rather stay clear of them and make this video more demon-centric. Now, of course, this roster is kinda small. Even I can see it too, as obviously this won't provide for a lot of variety. It's of course one of the flaws of the tabletop. Now, there are 2 units that were implemented in regards to this in 6th edition, which could help out fluff up the army a little bit more. I'm of course talking about the 2 units implemented for Chaos, the Blood Chariot of Khorne and the Blood Beast. These are more or less what you can expect by just viewing their units. The Blood Chariot of Khorne is a basic chariot, but it's being pulled by a Juggernaut of Khorne, so it would be able to do a lot of damage fairly quickly. And the Blood Beast, well, pretty much acts as a Chaos Spawn. Not the most exciting of units, yes, but it does fill out the roster a little bit. Interestingly enough, I believe it was Khorne's armies which had the least variance when it came out of all the Chaos Gods. It's actually quite funny considering that Khorne was one of the more popular ones, but then again, sometimes you don't need a lot of variance to do a lot of damage. Finally, of course, there are 2 units, which more or less fall around the undivided route. Chaos Furies, which could have the Mark of Khorne, and the Soul Grinder. Yeah, these aren't really popular units, and there's not really too much to discuss. The Soul Grinder itself is a very Warhammer 40,000 unit, which was for some reason also implemented into Warhammer Fantasy, but could provide for an interesting god tier type of unit, very similar to the Dread Saurian, where you wouldn't be able to outright keep recruiting these. And of course, finally, the Chaos Furies would act in a very similar way, well, identical way to the Beastmen Harpies. There's not really much to go about them. They were so very rare, to be honest. I don't really recall seeing them on the tabletop. Though I believe that this is all a good basis for a Khorne army. Of course, I've brought my own headcanon into this to introduce some unit variants, but I think that those variants would work rather well. If not, the whole Khorne army would literally be, what, 7 units? And that would be kind of boring, of course. I mean, you're going to be using 1 or 2 units near the end of your campaign anyway once you start doom stacking, but before then, you know? And even then, most people only recruit 1 or 2 specific units for whatever race and faction they play, but I am a lore player, so I like to recruit varied armies. So what do you guys think about the forces of Khorne? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and let's start a bit of a discussion. We will be covering all the different Chaos Gods here, Kislev, and then try and do Cathay. The others are much easier than Cathay because Cathay had no actual army list. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and let's start a bit of a discussion. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various links to different social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Discord. Also in the description section is an affiliate link with Element Games where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using that link and also our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A big thank you to Gibraltar LUSC, Ryan Bertsche, Andrew Prince, and Okro for subscribing to us at our Fane level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule, VS Vasan, Aaron Whitman, and Shaggy for subscribing to us at our King level. Honestly, we can't thank you all enough. And lastly, a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing, and commenting on these videos. Honestly, it's because of you guys that the channel's been growing at such a great pace lately, so we can't thank you all enough. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.